Good afternoon and welcome to the 8th COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Students Town Hall. I'm Christine Bell, mother of 3 beautiful children, Executive Director of Urban Neighborhood Initiatives, proud member of COVID313, and today's co-moderator. We're translating the town hall into Spanish, Arabic, and ASL. So we want to give folks time to get on the right line and get comfortable. Cindy, please share the phone number for Spanish translation.
Si necesita traducción en español, por favor, hable al 313-626-7440, 313-626-7440.
Thank you, Cindy. Saeed, please share the phone number for Arabic translation.
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية رجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. الرقم مجددا 313-241-7030. وشكرا. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed. Katie or Julie, please share the instructions for ASL. Thank you. Jametta?
Yes, thank you, Julie, and thank you, Christine. My name is Jametta Lilly, and I am honored to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network. I'm also honored to be a member of the COVID313 Community Coalition for Families and Youth. The coalition, we're your neighbors, your grandparents, your moms, your dads. We're faith-based and agency leaders and educators and foundations. And all of us believe that knowledge is power. So each week, we have been bringing you facts, resources, and support to help cope that COVID has shined a horrible spotlight on. And yet, because we know of this, the coalition is also here to function as change agents. And as change agents, we want to remind all of us in the midst of the devastation, of the pain and the uncertainty that many of us are feeling, and as part of our world, we want to remind us of our collective power, that when we work together, we are powerful, and we can stay safe and active even as the season is changing. And while the season is changing and we're being active, we want to encourage you to also be active about the issues and concerns that keep children and families and our community safe and thriving. And so remember, when it comes to change, when we are planful, positive, and persistent, we win. And you'll hear more about our collective action and one of our very important wins as we go through our program with you today. But maybe I'll give you a major hint. All children have a right to literacy. You'll hear more about that from our coalition and our wonderful experts. So thank you and stay tuned. And we want to remind all of the wonderful people that are joining us on our program to please make sure that you keep your mics muted and stay tuned to our audience, because now I'm so happy to bring one of our regulars to the stage. And by the way, this is a town hall, so this is our new stage, right, Nkenge? So Nkenge Browner with Mothering Justice is our next powerful voice.
Hey everyone, I'm Nkenge Browner. I am a mother of 2 DPS students. I'm also the organizing director at Mothering Justice. Statewide, we are expanding the current sick leave policy for it to include emergency and pandemic provisions and return the law to its original language. As for the state, we formed a paid leave coalition. We're working with State Senator Erica Geis on formulating a long-term comprehensive bill that's at least 12 weeks for every working person and inclusive of all family types. Federally, we're continuing to push the paid leave for all campaign and pushing Congress to pass a permanent law beyond the pandemic that includes all working people. The current law excludes over 32 million people and it expires December 31st, 2020. Tuesday, a federal bill was introduced that will at least expand the laws into the end of 2021. Please check out motheringjustice.org to stay updated about paid family sick leave, and I'll pass it to Christine.
you, Nkenge, and thank you for all the amazing work Mothering Justice is doing for our families. Thank you. So stay with us for the next 90 minutes so you can stay informed and powerful. This is also a time for you to ask questions of our experts and to have a little fun. So to ask your questions, please use the chat on Facebook or text your questions to 313-288-2082. Again, that number is 313-288-2082. We will have question and answer after each segment. If we can't answer your question today, we're committed to getting the answers to you by early next week. All questions asked today will be posted with answers on onedetroitpbs.org. Cindy, please share the Spanish translation number for folks that have just arrived.
Si necesita traducción en español, por favor, hable al 313-626-7440. 313-626-7440. La traducción de hoy sería hecha por la señora Doña Gloria Rosas y Liliana Torres.
Thank you, Cindy. Saeed, please share the number for Arabic translation.
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية رجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. الرقم مجددا 313-241-7030. معكم سعيد ونجوى دحدح وشكرا.
Thank you, Saeed. Katie, please share the instructions for ASL for folks that have just arrived. Thank you, and I'm sorry, it's Julie that's doing our ASL interpretation right now. Thank you, Julie. So to kick us off today, we have a very special guest, Reverend Larry Simmons. Please welcome him. Larry?
Hey, how you doing, Christine?
Good.
So I am the executive director of the Brightmoor Alliance, but that's not really my role here today. I'm here today because I'm old. In fact, I'm the oldest person around here. I don't know if you filled out your census yet, because this comes from the census. You have filled out your census, right? You filled out your census? Please, fill out your census. But at any rate, the census says I'm older than 98% of the people in America. That means if you put a room of 100 people together, there's gonna be one person older than me, there's me, and there's all the rest of y'all. So this gives me certain privileges. And one of the privileges is to talk about the fact that I have raised 5 sons. I now have 8. Betty and I have a blended family of 8 sons. That's a topic for another show. But we have raised these children, and I have experienced everything from the messes they make as babies to the mess that comes out their mouth when they start smelling themselves. Y'all know what that means, smelling yourself? Call me, I'll explain it later. But at any rate, the reason I'm here is because every place you're flying today, I've already flown. I've been through that valley. I've been to those mountaintops. And I'm here to tell you that you are super. You are the parent of the next generation. And I want you to know, as somebody who's already walked the path, that you're going to be able to walk it, not only survive Corona, you're going to thrive through it. You're going to grow stronger and more powerful from it. Listen, even with superpowers, the Black Panther and Wonder Woman, they needed to be trained up. And what we're going to help you do is to train up your superpower, because you've got it. So as you sit back and listen up, grab yourself some Wakanda juice, get yourself some Wonder Woman Island Shine, sit back and take in this information and these skills that are coming for you. We're going to be here with you. You got superpowers. Simmons out. You got it next, Cindy Gamboa.
Thank you so much, Larry. I really appreciate that. Well, yes, Larry, I completed my census. Well, I'm not going to tell you how old am I, but I will tell you that I completed my census. Hey everyone, Cindy Gamboa. I'm a mother of 3 wonderful kids. I'm a proud organizing director at Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, and I'm also a member of the COVID313 Community Coalition. Now, if you ask any parent in the world, who's the best kid? They're all gonna say the same thing. My kid, right? Everyone in their own eyes say our babies are the best thing in the world because our babies are so perfect to us. They bring us so much joy. The moment they're born, you as a parent already know your child more than anyone in the world. You study their characteristics, you know their flaws, and you understand their personalities. Parenting does not come with a manual. We're all very clear on that. But isn't it amazing that our kids are all still thriving? Like, wow, how'd that happen, right? It's our natural instincts as parents that guide us on how to care for our kid. We figure out what works, what doesn't work for our kids. But you know what? Sometimes even with all those superpowers, right, and our training, we don't have all of the answers. And we might feel like we're at a place where we just feel stuck. And that's okay. You, as a parent, have power. You have power to say no. You have the authority to slow down when you have to. You have permission to reach out to someone if you need help. And best of all, you have the power to fight for what your kids need. Now, that power for me was apparent yesterday. When we fight, I know we win. The tireless collective work that took over 4 years earned the right to literacy for our kids. And I can't be more excited. The governor settled the right to literacy late last night. The settlement was won because of the advocacy of parents, students, educators, and community members. This was because of our advocacy as families to ensure that our kids and families aren't forgotten by our policymakers. It was because all of those of you that went overnight to Cincinnati to make sure that the circuit court heard our cries for justice. It was because of our relentless phone calls, tweets, car parades, and virtual organizing. Our voices now more than ever must be heard to keep our families safe. Now, we're gonna continue to be here. Just like Larry said, COVID313 Community Coalition is committed to continue to be in the same place every Thursday from 12 to 2 to give you information that you wanna hear about. We're also gathering resources on one site, covid313.org. Now, as a reminder, if you're looking at us through Facebook right now, if you have questions during this whole program, you can type your questions into the chat, and we're gonna be posting our questions on Zoom for our panelists to answer. If you're watching from onedetroitpbs.org, you can text us questions to 313-288-2082. Again, that's 313-288-2082. The rules for the chat are being posted right now. Now we're committed as a group to posting the answers to questions that aren't answered today, early next week on our partners' Facebook pages. So keep an eye out for that. We also have, we'll post the live recording of this webinar on the website onedetroitpbs.org. If you want to sign up for regular updates or get reminders from our group, please sign up by filling out the form in the chat on Facebook or texting your email address to 313-288-2082. Again, send your email to 313-288-2082. Now, for those of you that just joined, we're gonna share how you can connect if you need Spanish or Arabic, if you're a Spanish or Arabic speaker, or you need ASL interpretations. So para español, por favor hable al 313-626-7440, 313-626-7440. Said, please share the number for Arabic translation for folks that just arrived.
إن كنت بحاجة للترجمة إلى اللغة العربية الرجاء الاتصال على الرقم 313-241-7030. مجددا الرقم هو 313-241-7030 وشكرا. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed. Julie or Katie, please share instructions on how to connect for ASL interpretation. Thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our moderators, Christine Bell. Christine and
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Larry, for reminding me that and everyone else how powerful we really are. In this time, sometimes it's hard to remember that. So thank you both. We are really excited for our expert panelists that could join us today to share the 3 to 5 most important pieces of information that families and students need to know right now. Also, we have some amazing guests that will lead us in some kid activities that we can continue to do at home. And if you are like me, I need a few new activities. For our experts and guests, please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They want to make sure they are translating the important information you're sharing correctly. Also, turn off your cameras when you're not speaking to ensure our ASL interpreter can be seen, and mute yourself when you're not speaking. Terry Whitfield is our timekeeper today. He will chat you your remaining time. If you go over your time, Jametta will gently remind you to wrap up. We'll be taking questions from our audience at the end of your segment. Jametta?
Thanks, Christine. So as we said, we are committed to make sure that we bring you facts, resources, and support, and from trusted sources. So we're going to continue, but before we do, as you think about questions or information that you'd like to get, you can feel free to chat that in our Facebook Live, or you may text us at 313-288-2082. Again, that number, you may text us at 313-288-2082. For this program, we're going to do a deeper dive into education because we recognize through this time of COVID, we have so many more questions. But as Reverend Larry reminded us, we have power, and knowledge and resources and support will help us make that power really so much more significant. And to help us have a better understanding of the way that the Detroit Public School Community District is supporting parents, we're so delighted to have Shalonda Buckman to join us. Shalonda is the Assistant Superintendent of Family and Community Engagement. Welcome, Shalonda. Just a slight glitch.
Yeah, I'm just unmuting myself. And thank you, Jametta. And I also want to let Rev know that I do have my Wakanda juice in my house. We call it coffee. So I'm really excited to be here today to share on behalf of the district. During this unprecedented time, my work in the district really has everything to do with who I am as a leader in the city and a person who has spent their whole career just really working to support families, as so many supported my family. Born and raised in Detroit, have been an East Sider most of my life, and really have an affinity for supporting parents, especially because my mom was a great mom, had a lot of challenges, but the one thing that she always instilled in us is just a love of self and a love of others. And I watch her continue even today, give tirelessly to our families in and across the community. And so that really is the impetus of the work and the passion that I have for doing this work in the district. And so happy to be here today. The Office of Family and Community Engagement encompasses a number of things. And Parent Academy is obviously our flagship for how we do our work and the investment that we make in parents. Quite honestly, we have so many parents who have spent their whole academic career in the system and have a legacy of children across their family in the district. That our commitment, as I adjust my camera, is to make sure that we're equally investing back in you. So Parent Academy is that format. And I'll get really much more into that, but the Office of Family and Community Engagement handles quite a few things. Most of it has to do with stakeholders who have been contributing to our schools for a long time. As I came onto the district 3 years ago, Dr. Vitti and I really tried to prioritize many best practices that were happening around the country in terms of how you support families to be successful. So we've instituted things like parent-teacher home visit, where we have over 6,000 visits in this last year, teachers going out, building bridges with parents, helping parents with the support and the tools to be effective at home. And I know it's really coming to bear now in the environment that we're in. We have a faith-based initiative, and I'll just name a few that really is focused on making sure that our religious organizations are directly connected to our school. Many have been, but making sure every school has one. We have that now. We have a faith-based council where we use that platform, want to hear from many of our religious leaders about what they're hearing from parents in their congregation, but also as a platform so that we can give them regular updates on what we're doing in the school district. And during this COVID-19 time, they've been very helpful in providing resources, volunteers, and other supports to help us in this space. We also launched a huge Let's Read campaign, and I would be remiss in not mentioning Mother Moore, who has been both a champion and obviously is today, along with many of us, and as Cindy mentioned, celebrating the win and the right to literacy for our kids across the state and within the city of Detroit. So I'm really excited about that. We have parent-teacher associations now. We transitioned the district back, making sure that we could tap into a national legacy of work and leverage the advocacy arm of that organization. And so we are certainly invested 3 years into having almost 100 PTAs in the district. Many of the platforms that I'm mentioning have also transitioned to a virtual platform. So our PTAs are meeting with parents. That's one support structure that we have in place. We've included and asked our school advisory councils that are made up of 19 stakeholders that represent students, parents, and other folks who are invested in our school. So I could go on, but our office, literally in a nutshell, really facilitates many relationships with folks who have been invested in schools, who wanted to play an active role in schools, and there was no way to do it. And now we've created lots of platforms for that to happen. So again, our flagship is Parent Academy. And in Parent Academy, one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we were specifically focused on things that I know from experience parents have prioritized as areas where they would like additional support, and that they also lend a lot of support. So there are 3 pillars. One is personal and professional development. As many of our parents are working jobs, are looking for upward mobility opportunities, are also looking for opportunities to start a new business or anything along that plethora. That opportunity happens in personal professional development. We have partners that sometimes leads to employment opportunities. And so we're really excited about what we've seen happen there. The second pillar is parenting and advocacy. As Cindy said earlier, children don't come with an instructions manual. So one of my favorite parts of this work is having raised my children, my son and my daughter, with access to a whole network of parents who probably have taught and deposited more in me than I've actually given. And I appreciate that. But parenting is so much better when you have other great people to tap into. And the third pillar is student achievement. And that is really focused on all of us want more for our kids than we had, want our children to do better than us. And so we know the pathway to get there is education. And so making sure that parents understand and have been a part of the district adopted a new curriculum and then what that looks like in action, giving us constructive feedback. And so as I talk about those things, and as we came to the realization that we now have to close schools for the remainder of the school year, the first thing that we did is think about what that meant for this body of work. we did not want to lose the opportunity to continue to be able to bring our parents together to support each other. I think that has been one of the things that I love the most about this transition, is that parents are able to call in and support each other. So we didn't want to lose the opportunity to do that. So we first launched Parent to Parent, and that happens every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. You can get connected by calling our office, 313-873-7490. It sounds funny doing that because we've not stopped working. We have our phones transferred wherever they need to go, but we're answering that line. So parents can call, or they can go to our website, DetroitK12.org, and be a part of that. And what Parent to Parent is for us is it's a platform where parents are the experts. So this is part of Parent Academy, but this specific opportunity every Tuesday is where parents are sharing their greatest hopes, their frustrations, their challenges. They are sharing best practices in what distance learning looks like in their home. They're creating some best practices as we have those conversations. And then we also use that as a platform to really gauge from them what are some of the other issues that you're concerned about. And so our parents said to us, mental health is an issue. For our high school students, that's very stressful. For parents who still have to go to work or are working from home, like many of us. And I remember one of the parents saying, you know, how are you doing this? Because I have one computer and I have to use it for work at home, and just you could just feel the tension. And then you had other parents, not necessarily not the district staff, but other parents really sharing with them what that actually looks like. Yesterday we had a session that was focused on parenting time, and you know, what does that look like when you have joint custody of children and you have COVID-19 happen, and how are those transitions happening? And so so we really try to listen to what our parents are saying. They support each other, and then they tell us, who do you want to hear from? One of the issues that came up was just exceptional student services or special education. And so we're able to leverage in experts. In this case, we brought in our head of special education, which is Lauren, who had a very direct conversation about how to access resources for students even at this time. And so I would encourage all parents who are listening to take a minute and join us on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock for that session. It is also an opportunity for parents who want to host a session. I mean, there are all kinds of possibilities. We have our full Parent Academy catalog available on our website as well. And so the courses range from everything that includes cooking. Like for Cinco de Mayo, we had one of our teachers and parents come on and talk about the history of what Cinco de Mayo means, but also they made guacamole, and they made all kinds of dishes. And so we were really excited about that. So in addition to dealing with some of the challenges, it's also been about having fun. It's been about sharing ideas and ways that you can engage your child in that process. We've done sessions with Code 313, Coding 313 in Detroit. They're one of our partners. And so they're interactive opportunities for you to experience with your child. Again, go to DetroitK12.org and you can pull the catalog. These courses are free to all parents. We know that we're primarily focused on parents in our district, but parents all over the city can actually join in and be a part. We also have story time with Face. I have yet to read, but I'm really excited, waiting my turn to actually read to the little people. But we have parents joining with their children for story time. One of my favorite activities that we just recently did was really a session that one of our team members, Sharia, did, and it was actually family trivia. And so we focused in on famous African Americans who have made history over the years. And it was interesting to hear parents and young people winning the game or sharing their answers. And so it was both educational, but it was also an opportunity to build relationship. So again, Parent Academy is available for all parents across the city. Parent to Parent is part of our program. It happens every Tuesday, and we're going to continue to bring things based on what our parents tell us they want. So I'm going to stop there, and yield to our host or moderator to continue us on.
Sherlonda, thank you so much. And as to be expected, there's a plethora, as you said, of information and resources and support that the district is making available to parents. And to continue in this segment, we want to make sure that throughout this, in terms of creating powerful parents, we want to make sure that you hear from other parents in this discussion. So we're now going to shift to hear some of our parent voices. And so very pleased to welcome LaTanya Peterson. LaTanya is a parent and a grandparent, and she's also one of our parent program assistants at Detroit Parent Network. LaTanya, would love to hear from you, and what are the ways that you have been coping with COVID at the same time taking care of yourself and your children? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is LaTanya Peterson. I'm a mother of five. Because I have to include my nephew's son. I have one grandson and I have one grandchild on the way. We don't know what that's going to be, but my children's ages are 23, 21, 17, 15, 14, and the grandson is 5. Woo! Can I? However, one of the things that we're doing to stay on task and cope with this is they do continue their studies. It's still like an everyday schedule as if they were in school. Today, we named this one Professional Development Day so that I can attend this. So they're out of school doing their own thing, which don't include being on the phone, nothing like that, maybe reading a book. Then some might even be napping today because they're not in class. However, I am structured parent from 8:30 to 3:30. They have a schedule, whether it's reading, math, science, something. But here's the kicker. All of my children go to different schools. I have one at King. I have one at Southeastern. I have one online at Back on Track Academy. And the grandbaby is at Matrix Head Start. So everybody got to do something. Everybody asking, how do you do it and still can work? I use every minute in the day wisely. Whether it's working from home, and yes, I do work from home. Everybody like, how are you gonna do this online town hall with all your kids? It's being structured. I set boundaries. I expect them to be followed. With my older children, the ones that are 23 and 21, they ask me like, how do you get them to be involved? It's simple. I'm their momager. I was just speaking with Jametta and I told her that. She looked at me like, what? Momager. I'm still mom because you never stop parent, no matter if your kid is 21 or 58, you still mom. Everybody play a part, whether they cook dinner, clean, go grocery shopping, everybody got a part, make the grocery list. Some people do laundry, but we work it out. And not only do I care for my children and my grandchild and work, I still currently in school to receive my bachelor's, so I'm constantly doing everything. Everybody like, is you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. I just make the best out of my situation. This has strengthened our communication skills other than using the phone and technology. We more face-to-face, working on communication skills, because that's what a lot of families lack of, how to communicate with your child. You know, we all familiar with the sit at the table, everybody's sitting at the table, everybody on the cell phone too. No, we talk about everything. So those are some of the things that I do to cope.
Well, my goodness, and you are doing and juggling quite a bit. And so many of us in the audience can relate, and some of us are just frankly awed. Just very quickly, I think you also shared, LaTanya, that while you have children in multiple schools and you also have them in different ages, I believe you have some children that also are special needs. If you could speak to that just very briefly.
Oh, yes. I actually have one with ADHD. He has severe asthma too. So when he's not clowning, he's sick. We just need to find a balance with that one. And then as well as I have one with narcolepsy. It's a struggle that and we try to get him to stay up, it's very hard. So when he's not sleeping, those little 5 minutes in between, we make that count far as his learning too. And I must give a personal shout out to Southeastern. Their staff there is great because not only we out of school with him, it's like, even though they're out of school and most kids seem to be off schedule, they make sure that he's following his schedule, because it's bad enough they're out of school, but with children with a disability, they're like likely like 1.5 times behind the average student. So we want to keep him up there with his same schedule. But a lot of patience and understanding. And I just didn't get understanding overnight, so, or patience either. So it's a learning process for me and my children.
Thank you so very much. Learning, patience, persistence, all the things that we need. And so as we're talking about people who have patience, persistence, so very delighted to have Sherry Smith join us. Sherry is a parent, but not as she's a super parent, as we like to say, a powerful parent, because she's also had experience homeschooling her children. And yet she also has a child at New Paradigms Glazer Elementary School. Sherry, we're delighted to have you come on board. Please speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I am, like you said, I actually have 2 children that were at Glazer Academy, a first grader and a 6th grader. So a middle schooler and an elementary. I have 10 years of experience homeschooling my kids, actually. They've only been in school since the fall of 2018. So before that, for 10 years, I homeschooled, which was really awesome. And so what I wanted to do today was to make sure that I spoke to parents and just encourage parents from the perspective of, I know a lot of people have anxiety about being now responsible for making sure their kids are getting the education and the curriculum and all of these things. And I had about 5 points that I wanted to make sure that I touched on. Number 1 is that you, the parent, are your child's first teacher. You were certified by the fact that you created them, and they learned thousands of things from you before they were ever enrolled in any school. So sometimes as parents, we place these expectations to reproduce an educational structure and institution at our home, which can be really unrealistic and super stressful. So I want to make sure all parents know that you don't have to recreate a school setting at home. You can build on the skill set that you have in influencing your children. You have the unique ability to focus on their strengths and your relationship to influence them. And speaking to relationship and connectedness and communication, that's a major, major thing at home when you're educating your kids, is communicating and understanding what's going on with them. In this COVID-19 time, what we all have to remember is that everybody's experiencing this as a family together. And so the first thing that for my kids we did, probably the first week and a half, was we focused on mental wellness. We focused on checking in. How is everybody handling this? You know, what are some of your feelings? What are some of the things you're thinking about? And really expressing some of those things, whether it was my first grader drawing pictures of kind of how things are different now than they were before, and kind of expressing and talking about how he was feeling about that, how he was processing those things. And my middle schooler discussing the fact that, you know, she was feeling different because she wasn't able to interact with a lot of her schoolmates, and how that impacted her and what was different. So focusing on some of those things first, I came up kind of with an acronym because my degree is in psychology, but I also focus a lot on self-care and mental wellness from a young age on up. And so what we like to do is an acronym I call BARE, B-A-R-E, where we first breathe, check in with yourself and become present. Second, we assess our mood. Is everybody focused? Is everybody relaxed enough to hear what's going on? And if we are assessing, then we can address issues. If somebody's mood is, I'm sad because I miss my teacher, or I'm upset because somebody in our family passed away, we may not be able to receive all the educational material in that moment. So first we are going to breathe. We're going to assess our mood. Next, we relax, whether that's taking deep breaths or a few yoga stretches, getting comfortable, shaking out some things. And then we educate. We educate once we know we're in a relaxed state, because everybody learns better when they're more relaxed. The last thing I would say is learn together. As a parent, don't be afraid to learn with your children. You don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes we'll pull up a Khan Academy video and watch it together and learn how to kind of present the material if it's something that I'm not familiar with. And that allows the kids to feel a little more relaxed, because I'm not coming in as the expert who knows everything. We're all learning together because I want them to know that learning is lifelong. It doesn't stop when you get out of school. And then we all can just learn together. And so those are some things I just wanted to encourage parents to do.
Sherry, that was absolutely awesome and good news and information for all of us, particularly to reinforce that parents are in fact the first teacher and learning is lifelong. And certainly someone who would support the notion that parents are powerful and that learning is lifelong is the principal at Grace Lee Boggs School, Julia Putnam. Julia, we're delighted to have you on board. Please join us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Sherry, I really enjoyed that presentation, and it really speaks to something that is dear to my heart. So I'm the principal at the James and Grace Lee Boggs School, but I'm also one of 3 co-founders with 2 other educators. And we are a public charter school on the East Side. I have 2 children. My son is about to start his freshman year at Marygrove next year. We're very excited about that. And my daughter is at the Boggs School going into 8th grade with me. And James and Grace Lee Boggs are 2 longtime activists from Detroit. James Boggs was an auto worker and a labor activist and a Black Power activist. Grace Lee Boggs was a Chinese American who's a philosopher and writer, also very involved in the Black Power movement with her husband James in Detroit. And one of the things that we learned from James that informed the philosophy behind our school is that community building is education, that you learn through serving the community. And one of the things that we learned from Grace Lee Boggs is that we all have the power to create the world anew, that we have to love our communities enough to make a difference in them. And that's what learning should be about. And so we use a place-based education model, which means we use the place around the school and the neighborhood and the community and embed the content area subjects in that in order to teach our curriculum. And what we're noticing right now in this moment and the condition in which we started to found the school is this idea that school is often dehumanizing to everybody involved. It's particularly the students. And how do we go from dehumanization to becoming more human beings, which is what our society needs, which is what our country needs, and it certainly needs it now. And how are we nurturing the creative, critical thinkers who can contribute to the well-being of their communities in order to have a different kind of society than we have today. And what we see in this moment is a chance to step back from the art of what's possible, which is what we're all doing, right? How do we make what we have and make it possible? How do we take this school setting and bring it into our homes? And our question is not that, but how can we make what feels impossible possible? How do we reimagine schools? How do we address this time? And so the power at the Boggs School is really through our face-to-face relationships. And we don't necessarily really want to get good at distance learning. I mean, we're going to do what we have to do to stay connected to our students and to provide an education for them. And the way we've been doing that is to have our teachers record videos for the youngest kids and be able to watch them and do their assignments. But also for our older kids to create a learning menu so that we are putting out assignments that are low tech or high tech, depending on what is available for our families. And also so that they can do the menus over a 2-week period, choose the things that are most interesting and choose the things that work for their families. So if it's an assignment where you need your parent to be with you and supporting you, it can be done at a time in which your parent is home from work and can sit down with you. It doesn't have to be from 9 to 2 o'clock when a lot of families and parents are needing to work or needing to be on their own telecalls like this one. And so that it can be flexible. And we think about ways in which we can make education and make the system work for us as opposed to having us fit into the system. And the things that we tell our families is to, number one, prioritize your own mental health and the mental health of your children, which is why I really, really enjoyed Sherry's presentation about BEAR, is that there's no way to educate our kids without their being relaxed and their being okay. And we need to be okay. So prioritizing our own mental health and the mental health of our children over academics is what I tell my families. If you need to put away that assignment, that's fine. One of the things we do say is, if you can do nothing else, read every day. The children need to read every day, or they need to be read to every day. And that is the thing to prioritize right now, your mental health and reading. And then also I would say that we do education in what we know is best for our children. And so making the decision and being okay with the fact that we are the best deciders over what works for our family. And we tell our families that, and we tell our kids that. We have meetings with our kids, we meet one-on-one with our kids. And I think this is the time to begin deciding for ourselves, in the same way so many of the activists decided that we should have a right to literacy and did the work. We also have a right to define education and what it means for our children and what we think is best. And that is what we are trying to do as a school, using this time to actually listen to our families and our kids about what's working for them, what is inspiring to them, and giving them choices about what they're learning and how that learning can benefit the community. Thank you.
Julia, thank you so much. And thank you for reminding us that through education and believing in each other, we can make the impossible possible. And one group of educators that really understands very often about how you can create dreams and possibilities as folks in that early childhood space. And so pleased to make a shift and to welcome two experts in early childhood development and education. And we're going to have Waymond Haye, who is the director of Focus Hope's Early Head Start and Head Start. Waymond, welcome.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, now you can see me.
Yes, all together.
So my name is Waymond Haye, Director for Early Head Start and Head Start. Early Learning at Focus Hope. We have multiple programs, comprehensive service, that we focus on pregnant moms through youth development. We have a youth development program as well. Shout out to Glazier, because I see one of the parents here on Glazier. We have a classroom there. The topic I have today, the importance of transition. Parents, this is the perfect time to really prepare your child for transition. Just a little bit about me. I worked for Head Start for years. Also, my work reference, in my humble beginnings, I was one of the first Head Start children on the southeast side of Detroit. So I'm a product of Head Start, and it shows that it works. Some things that parents can do at home as activities: environmental print. I don't know if everybody remember the color purple, when they took the pictures, the words, and put them around the house, and have the young lady to picture read the items and also say the words, and it showed and identified what the item were. Please do that with your child at home. The importance of the transition piece for parents is not only putting your child into kindergarten for yourself, for the child, but also yourself, preparing yourself for the new beginning of the child education, for that child education. As we know, a lot of us may have more than one child, but every child is a different child. Another thing you can do is the self-help skills. When we prepare our child to go to kindergarten, it's really important that they have them self-help skills, knowing how to really take care of themselves and to do the things for themselves. They're used to us as parents doing things for them, but it's going to be real important for the child to enter into their classroom knowing how to tie their shoe, knowing how to use the restroom alone, and be able to take care of their personal needs. Also, it's important for parents, I heard somebody say it ahead of time, was to read to your child every day. Please continue to read to your child every day and ask your child questions, and allow your child to picture read to you as well. Let them look at the pictures in a book and point them out and just talk about what they see and have them conversations. It's really important for us to talk to our kids. The child is going to a new classroom, a new space. Some kids may transition with your child, and some kids may not. They might have a whole new group of friends. But it's important for your child to be able to talk to you and let you know how their day went, because you are an advocate for your child. It also is important for you as a parent to visit your child's school. Really identify what school you want your child to go to, know what the expectations is ahead of time, and prepare the child for that, and also prepare yourself for it. But visit your child's school on a regular basis. Build a relationship with your child teacher. That's real important. Is when the child know that the mom and the teacher talk, it keeps everything transparent, and also makes you more comfortable as a parent, and also let the parent, the teacher know that they have support with the child as well. So please make sure you build a relationship with your child teacher, as well as attend a parent-teacher conference, as well as joining committees, whatever is going on in school. Make sure you're totally involved with everything that's going on in school. Make sure you're, as you're riding, when we open back up, or even if you're going to the grocery store and your child going with you, point out different environmental prints, just to help build up them literacy skills, because literacy is one of the biggest pieces for our kids to meet their third grade reading test. That's the expectations for them to pass, because that's real important. So I'm here at Focus Hope. If you need anything, just to let you guys know, if we have any pregnant moms here on this call, we still have a doula program. We still passing out diapers every Tuesday and Thursday here at Focus Hope. Diapers, wipes, and formula. We give out snack bags. So we're here to support the community. Just let us know. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Waymond. And to the audience, again, we're going to break very shortly to be able to hear your questions. So we want to continue with the focus on early learning and development by asking Pamela Spencer, who is the director for Great Start to Readiness program, to share updates with us. Welcome.
Hello. Actually, I'm representing Lena Montgomery, who's our director. I am an early childhood consultant with the Great Start Readiness program. And I really just want to just kind of support some of the things that Waymond said. Again, as far as transition for kindergarten, you do want to read to your children every day. We do want to try to support children in being independent, but during these times, that's really, that can be very difficult during this COVID time, because many of our children are feeling stressed. I have a 5-year-old, and most nights she wakes up and comes and gets in the bed with us. So we have to strike that balance between giving them that security they need and helping them to gain that independence. We do want them to be independent, but we have to give them the support that they need so they can feel the comfort that they need during this time. We do want parents to be able to choose a school, but again, during this time, that can be difficult. So we have to give them, help them come up with some different ways, some different tools. You may have to search online and do some exploring online, some different schools, get on the telephone and talk to somebody, since you can't just go out and visit. Do some networking with some other parents if you don't already have older children in schools, where you know you're going to send your 4-year-old to kindergarten next year. So things are a little different, and we have to try things a little differently. You may have to submit some paperwork online, which can be a learning curve for people, instead of just walking up to the school and handing in your paperwork. So many of our GSRP programs are working with parents. They're still continuing, just like the K-12. They're reaching out to families with work with children. They're having Zoom meetings. They're delivering packets of materials that children can work with to keep working on skills to prepare them for kindergarten. They're delivering food packages to families to help to support them as they continue on, and doing whatever they can to continue the learning and to continue the support during this time as they get ready for kindergarten. And if your program hasn't reached out to you, you can continue to reach out to your program, because our programs are still up and running. And they're there to give you whatever support you need as you try to make that transition on to kindergarten.
Okay, thank you, Pam, so much. And thank you for the correction. Many of us know and have worked with Lena over the decades to make sure that there is quality in our early care programs and good coordination with our K-12 partners. So we'd like to stop at this point and open up to the audience if there are any questions for our educational leaders and for our parents who share their tips about how to cope with COVID and still nurture themselves and be powerful. Christine, do we have any questions?
We sure do. So I'm going to ask Sherlonda if she could come back on. We have a few questions for DPSCD. So here she comes. Come on off mute. You're on mute. All right. So Sherlonda, do you know when parents of the 2020 seniors will receive refunds for their senior dues?
So we are right now, the principals do have a charge to begin that process. We wanted to make sure that we got one clarity from our superintendent relative to the commitments that we had made, but Dr. Beatty has said explicitly to schools that parents and students will receive all of their refunds for dues paid. That process will begin shortly. And I would also encourage folks to reach out directly to the principal because they are handling that at the school level.
Great, thanks, Sherlonda. And then there's a couple more here. Are there any parent meetings that are focused on how education will look moving forward?
So we have had some focus group discussions with parents to understand what they're thinking and what assurances they feel like need to be in place. Obviously, we are navigating the current shelter in, and we aren't going back at this moment. I would encourage folks, if they want to be part of those discussions, they can email me. I'll post my email for folks, but they can also call me. I know that's a risk. However, this is my work cell phone, so feel free to call all day. I do answer it, 313-408-0739. So we'll continue to have some of those conversations. There are no planning meetings in place yet, but we expect to do this in concert with our families. Yes.
Great. And then is DPSCD equipped to accept deaf and hard of hearing parents?
Yes, I think, again, you can reach out to me directly so that folks can get connected, however they, with somebody from our enrollment team, but we do have those supports in place. And our head of special education, Lauren, has reorganized where there's a lead in every part of the city. So if they, the easiest thing is just to reach out to me directly, and then I can connect you so that you don't have 3 or 4 numbers to call.
Great. Okay. So, and then this question is related to technology. Does DPSCD provide technology support in different languages? For example, how to use Teams, log in, use the camera, mute, etc.
Absolutely. So we have, and that was one of the things that Parent Academy put out first, was we have a weekly session on Thursdays that is a training on how to use Teams, but it's also an interactive discussion with our curriculum department on what's in the enrichment packets, how to facilitate certain things, where to access more resources. And absolutely, for all of our parent academies, we have a separate session. Actually, it's a Spanish only line for our Spanish speaking families. And then we do request translation on other workshops that we have for the many languages that exist within our district. So that support is there through our bilingual department.
Great. Thank you so much. And so the last question, and then I'm gonna, if Julia could come back on, because I think this is a question really for both of you. Are there conversations going on around how schools will reopen, safety measures? Will all schools have nursing staff on site full day and testing? So I think from the charter school perspective, if Julia, if you could hop on, if you're still here, and then Sherlonda from DPSCD's perspective, could you speak to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll let Julia go first because I feel like I've been talking for a minute, and we'll let Julia go first. Is she on?
Well, she might not be on. I know that she had to get off for a call. So go ahead.
Yeah, to save time. So it will be premature. So obviously we are in discussions. You know, we have a very progressive superintendent that Dr. Vitti is. And so from day one, we have come out the gate just making sure we protect our most vulnerable families with the food sites and the distance learning packets and all those different things. We are obviously looking at what's happening across the country. He is in regular discussions with our governor. And so we are planning for what that looks like. Obviously, we're going to work in concert with the governor and the orders that come out, as well as listening and looking at what best practices and then what specifically makes sense for our school community. So all those things have to weigh in. It would be premature to make a statement around what the actual plan is because it's evolving day to day. But I would just lift up that many of the conversations that we have had with parents have shared their insights in terms of what they want to see in place, which includes, obviously regular hand washing. Some parents have shared wanting to have education regularly around what to look for, making sure there's support in place for students that might have underlying conditions, making sure there is an opportunity for young people who may not have had an opportunity to be involved in distance learning to kind of close what will be an achievement gap there. So, I mean, our parents have given us very thoughtful feedback. And we're going to continue to listen and learn and obviously put out the best for our Detroit Public Schools Community District students and families.
Thank you, Sherlonda. You are always really helpful when it comes to all of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was just going to remind folks to turn off their cameras if they're not speaking. We have one other question. And I think that Pamela Spencer, this might be most appropriate directed at you. What is the difference between GSRP and Head Start? Do all schools offer these programs?
Well, Head Start is a federally funded program. Waymond can speak more to that. The early Head Start, I believe, is for birth through 3. And then Head Start is for the 3s and 4s. GSRP is state funded for 4-year-olds. They're very similar in nature. Head Start is more, they offer more resources and it's federally funded, but they're very similar educationally. Otherwise, those are the differences. The funding source and Head Start is more comprehensive.
Great. And then did you want to add anything, Dr. Hayes?
Thank you for saying that, Pam. Like she stated, we just focus more on the family as a whole to give out the resources too. So we believe in if the family is fine, the child will be educated as having a parent as a first teacher, which both do. but a lot of parents have a lot of decision-making power in our program. So we had a policy committee where parents vote on how the funding is spent, and they have a lot of decision-making power in it. And like early head start is from prenatal, while mom is pregnant, up into the child is 3. So we do deal with pregnant moms, home base as well.
Thank you so much, both of you. And then for the person in the audience that asked about the enrollment process for the Bog School, we will make sure that we get you that information. And I just want to thank the parents that gave their feedback. That was really helpful, and I was taking notes. So thank you for all that great information. Jametta?
Yes, thank you so very much. And we're going to move forward with our program. Again, want to reinforce thanking the parents and also our educators. So our next segment will be on health and wellness, which of course during COVID is so critical. And we've heard many of our speakers identify how critical our social, emotional, and our mental health is at a time like this. And to start us off will be Asia Burks. Asia is with Transformative Mind Counseling and is here to share some information and resources as we address that very important issue of grief counseling and coping at this very challenging moment in time. Asia, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, my name is Asia Burks. I'm the owner of Transformative Mind Counseling in Metro Detroit, specifically in the Southfield area. And one of the important things that I want to address today is grieving during the pandemic. There have been lots of diagnosis of COVID or the coronavirus for individuals, and also, unfortunately, a lot of deaths connected to it. And with that process, grieving can take on the understanding of grief in and of itself, but then also the impact of loss. So the loss of a loved one, or even just the loss of life as it was. I wanted to talk about both of those in the time that I have. So there might be some challenges that individuals might see come up for themselves when it comes to the loss, and some of those challenges might be that one-on-one engagement with individuals in person, not being able to have that connection or conversation with someone physically can be challenging. Isolation, loneliness, and having to navigate those, the inability to do typical hobbies that you might do. So maybe it is going to the gym, and that was your way of dealing with stress and not being able to do those activities. And then also continuous reminders of coronavirus or illness and death, and seeing numbers. And so when we're impacted with all of this information or being by ourselves, it's important for us to kind of look at how we're coping with the different things that we're experiencing. And with that, one way that, if we're thinking about a death or a loss of a loved one, and it's important that we find ways that are effective for us to be able to still grieve. You might be grieving the loss of one death or a loss, or multiple within a family, and being able to reach out to loved ones, even though we're unable to have the physical touch, but still being able to connect virtually over the phone. It's still important to still reach out to individuals and be able to process what we're experiencing, be it the loss of an individual or just the loss of what we're experiencing, or our everyday life in as it was. Or just the loss of normalcy and connection. It's also important to, when we're grieving the loss of a loved one, to think about our loved one and think about the things that are important to them as we transition or as they transition on, and what things that they would want for us as we're moving forward. Um, some coping mechanisms might be would be some mindful thinking about mindfulness, meditation, reaching out to your spiritual leaders if that is a part of your value base, recognizing your thoughts and breathing, and also letting go of control, if or control of the things that we don't have control of. Um, and trying to work through that process and being able to and have conversations with people that we love, is going to be important as well. I think I am, yeah. But I'm going to be here for the Q&A section, so I'll be here for during that time.
Okay, thank you, Asia.
You're
And
welcome.
please hold tight because we are going to continue our health and wellness segment. But we want to just back up for a quick moment to make sure that you have some important information from Perry Stone Palmquist. Perry is the director of the Student Advocacy Center. Delighted to have you join us, Perry.
Hello, thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm Perry, and I am a mother of two kiddos and two dogs who I hope will not enter my space while I'm talking to you all today. And I've been an advocate working alongside amazing, awesome parents and students for about 15 years. So today I want to talk a little bit about what Student Advocacy Center does, and how we might be able to support you in this challenging time. Student Advocacy Center has been around since 1975, working to keep students in school. We have offices in Detroit, Ypsilanti, and Jackson, and we take calls from families all over the state. Our focus is fighting school dropout, school pushout, and the school to prison pipeline, and doing that in a way that really elevates the voices of students and their parents, guardians, grandparents, and does it in a way that's collaborative and strength-based. I want to highlight two of our programs today. The first one is that Student Rights Helpline, which you see the image on the screen. Anyone from around the state can call, and our team is ready to help you figure out an educational plan, help you understand what your rights are, your options, resources, and really just lend some empathy in a personalized way in this really hard time as you're trying to problem solve how to support your child in their learning. Our team is working remotely, so you can either leave a message at our phone number, which is right there. Yes, thank you, 734-482-0489. Or you can email helpline@studentadvocacycenter.org, and someone will get back to you quickly. Second, we provide one-on-one education advocacy in Wayne County, Washtenaw, and Jackson counties for students who are just really stuck and in educational crisis. So that might be students who are expelled right now or on long-term suspension and wondering about how they might apply for reinstatement or early reinstatement next school year. We can help with that. Maybe your child was getting suspended over and over again when school was in session, and you're continuing to struggle with behaviors at home and kind of wondering just how to navigate that process. I think those are a couple examples of things that we can help with. As a side note, if you really want to learn more about our work or hear the stories of our students, we really encourage you to join us next Friday. Just a quick plug for our annual storytelling event. Of course, this year it gets to be held virtually, so that's been interesting to plan, but we'd love to see you at the event, and you can go to our website to learn more about that, www.studentadvocacycenter.org. I wanted just to talk a little bit about suspensions and expulsions. Before COVID in Michigan, every school day, 6 students were expelled, and many, many more than I think we know, were suspended. Before COVID, many students were being assigned to virtual schools without a chance to ever tell their side of the story of what happened, or to really think about an alternative to suspension, which is required by state law. We know students now have been suspended or expelled during the shutdown for behavior that happened before the shutdown. And we know that those who are already out are often struggling to get access right now for support. And frankly, that really blows our mind, and we want to know about that, and we want to help you navigate that. We've also been working with families who have been asking for a long, long time to be evaluated for special education, and we are, having some success working with districts to keep those evaluations going on that timeline. Our team has attended several virtual IEPs, which have actually gone quite well, and other special education meetings, and we're slowly starting to see, those accommodations that can help. Things like virtual social work services, weekly resource teacher check-ins by phone or video. This one I love, a personalized daily visual schedule that was created and laminated and delivered for a student. Daily phone calls at a scheduled time, video instructions, screen shares. Again, the key is this individualized support for students with disabilities who have an IEP, and we're starting to see some progress in that way. Lastly, I just want to take a moment and hold space for kind of the complexity of this moment. There are so many layers, and we're really trying to lean in with compassion for our educators who may have kids at home themselves, or underlying conditions themselves, or tech issues. We're definitely holding compassion for parents, a special place in my heart for parents. And I really appreciated some of the things shared earlier. We never signed up for many of us never signed up and don't have gifts of teaching. And this is a real stretch for us, particularly when our children have disabilities. And most of all, we're holding compassion for our students who, quite frankly, are really struggling. The ones that we are talking to are really struggling with motivation. And then if they're able to get motivated and get up in time to engage in the schoolwork, they're finding it quite overwhelming to navigate Google Classrooms and all the assignments. It's quite overwhelming, and just holding compassion for that. So we really, or tech glitches, or all these different things, all these different challenges that students are facing. We really encourage everyone to be kind to themselves, and that's sort of been echoed already today. Really focus on your mental health. I love when I hear, parents and guardians and grandparents saying that they're really focusing on their children's mental health right now, helping them get outside and moving and having those kind of heart-to-heart conversations. And we're hearing about, and I'm seeing in my own life, how important just physical touches and just, hugging our kids and really giving them that physical reassurance.
Perry, thank you so much. And therefore, many in the audience may not know of the important work that the center has done. And we want to encourage you. So there may, in fact, we wanted to make sure that we could get questions. So please, pardon me. Christine, do we have any questions? If you have not put them in the Facebook Live chat, you may text them to 313-288-2082. Christine?
Perry, can you just repeat the number again for parents to call if they need your resources?
Yeah, absolutely. 734-482-0489. And if you go on our website, the number is there as well. Or you can email the helpline at studentadvocacycenter.org.
Great. Perry, you no longer have to barricade yourself in a room. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My kids will be happy. Thanks.
Thanks, Perry. Have a great day. Jametta?
Yes, thank you, Christine, and thank you, Perry. So we'd like to continue, as we do each time, is to make sure that you hear trusted sources. And that's going to be coming from our Detroit Health Department. Very delighted to introduce to you Yolanda Hill-Ashford. Yolanda is the Director for Health Promotions. Yolanda, welcome.
Thank you, Jametta. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let me start my video. First and foremost, thank you again for having the Detroit Health Department. And I want everybody to know that the health of our residents here in the city of Detroit is the #1 priority of the Detroit Health Department. We also wanted to bring several statistics to you guys. So I'll be starting out, and then my colleague Crystal Hepburn will be finishing up. So wanted to bring to your attention that currently in Detroit, we know as of May 13th that there have been 17 COVID positive cases of children reported at Children's Hospital of Michigan. And these children are presenting with between the ages of 3 and 17 and presenting with multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Other symptoms include having had a fever for 3 days or longer, and 80 to 90% of the children who have presented with COVID also have gastrointestinal issues, such as vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pains. Some have had a rash, also have a red bumpy tongue called strawberry tongue, and other children present with some symptoms similar to Kawasaki's disease, with bloodshot eyes, cracked lips, swollen glands, red palms, and the soles of their feet are red. They've all been healthy prior to presenting with symptoms, so there have been no pre-existing medical conditions. Also, in following statistics, we wanted you to know that in the city of Detroit, we have had 10,000, a little bit over 10,000 positive cases. And compared to the state of Michigan, it's been 48,391. We've also experienced a little over 1,200 deaths in the city of Detroit, and in the state of Michigan, it's been 4,714. And you can see the zip code breakdown before you, and I know there's a lot of interest in what zip codes are most affected and would be considered a hot spot. And you could see that 48219 and 48235 have the largest amount of cases there. And I think we can make this information available to you guys if you want to. And then before I turn it over to Crystal, I just want to make sure that you all know that we have been working with the Center for Disease Control over the last couple of weeks, and even before they came on board, to test residents in nursing home facilities. And this is groundbreaking work that other cities are following Detroit's lead in doing. If we can protect our most vulnerable population and those who are affected, more, I guess, direly with having COVID, then we're doing our job at the public health department. So with the nursing home residents that have been tested, it's been over 3,300 tested. About 1,200 of them presented positive, and then there have been 293 deaths. We continue to follow up and provide education and investigation work there. We have tested over 17,000 homeless people. Well, we have provided testing to 17,000 testers to the homeless. And so far, the number for those who test positive is extremely low, which we're happy of. We've had 10 positive COVID patients that are in quarantine or had been quarantined with continuous monitoring. We are in our adult care facilities and our AFC homes, and we've tested over 200 in those populations. We're waiting on results from that as well. And then we continue with our communication assessment, testing, and support and education for and information for providers in senior independent living facilities and other facilities involving vulnerable populations. We are aiming to test over 8,000 residents in those facilities, and that would be over 70 facilities that we would have to go to get that done. So we are we have a very robust and very concentrated effort on testing our seniors, providing them with education, and providing education and supplies to those who treat or are in constant contact with those seniors in those facilities in order to protect that population. And I'll turn it over to Crystal now.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. So again, I know we've received a lot of questions, so we wanted to go ahead and make sure that we shared some of our current statistics, in addition to those that Yolanda has gone ahead and shared, in regards to those in essential services, and especially the city departments and how we've gone ahead and done some testing. So the Detroit Police Department so far has had 3,622 tests completed, of which 35 have been positive, so that's just under 1% at the moment. The Detroit Fire Department, as you'll see, has 607 tests completed so far with 81 positive COVID cases. We still have approximately 5.6% pending, so that is close to 20% at the most within the Detroit Fire Department. Collectively, all City of Detroit employees that have been tested and that have tested positive is 545. We still have a huge emphasis on on testing within our area. So we do have the Michigan State Fairgrounds testing, in which we have some numbers there. Drive-through testing so far for those who have attended the testing site have had a positive result of 22.4%, and those that have a not detected result of coronavirus has been about 77%. The average test result time period is about 4.5 days. In addition to the testing that the City of Detroit does, we also offer transportation available round trip from any residence in Detroit for $2. That is a completely sanitized, clean vehicle from one person to another for only $2. So if individuals are interested in the testing, all they need to do is ask for the transportation and the testing when they call to make their appointment. Next, we also have, as I was mentioning, the testing. The Michigan State Fairgrounds, we have expanded our testing there. The hotline to make the appointment is 313-230-0505. Sorry, I have an extra zero there, if you don't mind correcting that. Any residents in the City of Detroit, provided they have a prescription, can obtain testing at this particular facility complimentary, free of charge, no matter what. As long as they've been screened by a doctor and have a prescription, they can make an appointment by calling that hotline and scheduling it for their most convenient time. Essential employees within the City of Detroit also have complimentary testing available. Business employers should call that hotline 313-230-0505, register their business. They'll be provided with a unique code in which they can share with their employees to have an appointment scheduled. They will not need a prescription. If they are an essential employee with that unique code, they will not need a prescription. However, an appointment will be required. The city recently expanded complimentary testing without prescriptions for any City of Detroit resident ages 60 years and older. Again, you need to make an appointment by calling the hotline 313-230-0505. If individuals require transportation, again, transportation is available for that $2 rate. Additional testing locations within the City of Detroit are located here. That's also including Chaz Center, which just came online a couple weeks ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago now. They do have different criteria for each and every location. Some may require a referral from a doctor. Some may require photo identification and proof of the zip codes in which you live in. Please call the one that's closest to you to find the criteria. If you need assistance in obtaining the information as to which one might be a drive-through, which one may have walk-up information, or do testing at that particular site, please feel free to give us a call. We do have that information. It was just a little too lengthy to include on the site. However, our Detroit hotline number is available at the 313-876-4000. Then press number 1, or you can email our DHD outbreak email address. There has been a great deal of concentration on the return to work guidance and some information. So the state has gone ahead and provided the My Safe Start program for the state of Michigan. And with that, the guidance is located there. It will be a section by section. Information will be available depending on the criteria and depending on the type of business that you go ahead and participate in. Testing has been requested for child care settings. As long as they are in the city of Detroit and that business calls the Coronavirus Community Care Network and registers the business with the Unicode, any employee of that essential business can go ahead and have complimentary testing. You want to make sure that your children are taken care of and that the providers are also negative and no risk to your child. The Detroit Health Department can provide guidance to some businesses. We've got some best practice information, but depending again on the regulatory bodies, you may need to consult MIOSHA or other organizations to see the best practices for your business, okay?
Crystal and Yolanda, thank you so much. And in particular, thank you for the slides. And we're going to make sure that those slides are available to the public. And also thank you so much for the updates, not only the concerns that we have about where testing is, how we can access it. And thank you for bringing to all of our attention something that we're all very concerned about, which are these new characteristics that we're seeing that are impacting our children with COVID. And so with that, that's a good transition because we certainly want to hear from our pediatricians in terms of their assessment and analysis for us in that regard. So we're pleased to have Dr. Amrit Misra, who is a pediatrician and a cardiologist fellow at Children's Hospital of Michigan. Dr. Misra, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me and thanks for listening. Yeah, I'm just here to describe some of the things that we've been seeing actually. And so at Children, Yolanda actually had it was a great presentation. I think that first slide she had really kind of nailed what we've been seeing. And so initially, like when the COVID outbreak happened, and we weren't really seeing much cases in kids. We had a few kids who had very similar symptoms to what we were seeing in the adults, which were mainly the breathing problems that they're having, difficulty breathing, cough, runny nose, congestion, and fevers. But over the past, I would say about 2 to 3 weeks, we actually have been seeing more and more kids who have been coming in. And I kind of are dividing them into two groups. One group tends to be the younger kids who are maybe generally around like 5 or 6 or so, and less than that. But there's some overlap with older kids. But they tend to have this picture, which we call Kawasaki. It's a condition that's been around for years. But essentially, it's a condition of inflammation, meaning that certain blood vessels in the body become inflamed. And so the symptoms, as Yolanda had put up, are having a red tongue, red eyes, rashes will too, and also having very high fevers. And the other thing too is actually having some peeling of your skin as well too. The other aspect for the older kids that we're seeing, especially some of the teenagers, a lot of them are more presenting with abdominal pain, fever, and diarrhea with some of these rashes and everything as well too. And so these kids actually, it's very interesting because some of them are testing positive for coronavirus. The other group, though, when we do our test to see if they have coronavirus at this time, they're testing negative, but there's an antibody test that we use that lets us figure out if they've had coronavirus in the past. And a lot of the kids are testing positive for that. And so for some of these kids, we're not 100% sure what's causing them to have these symptoms, but it seems to be related, some inflammation, the body is causing some inflammation in reaction to having coronavirus in the past. And so, this sounds very scary, of course, but, I have good news for you all that there's treatment for it, actually. So we've been very successful in treating all these kids. There are different medications that we give that reduce the inflammation. And so we've had actually a pretty good success rate. The main reason that I'm a heart physician, actually, I help take care of kids with heart. The reason why I'm involved with this is that for some kids, it's not the majority, actually. It's a small percentage of the kids. The inflammation can be so severe that it leads to inflammation of the heart. And so with the inflammation of the heart comes decreases in the blood pressure and other signs actually. The heart's a pump essentially. And so for an example, if I put a gallon of fluid in the heart, we expect a gallon of fluid to come out because the heart's just a pump blood. For some of these kids, actually, just as an example, if there's a lot of inflammation, if I put that same gallon in, maybe only half a gallon or a quarter gallon will come out because there's so much inflammation that the heart can't pump it out. And so for those kids, actually, we've had to do a few things, such as give medications to increase the blood pressure. Some of them we've had to connect to ventilators and everything too to help them breathe as well too. But again, I think the big take-home point, this is a very scary condition, but have been very successful in treating the kids actually. And so the main take point I want to tell the family is that if your kids are having these symptoms where they're having fever, high fever for 2 days or 3 days, or a very diffuse rash as well too, or abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting, I really want to encourage you to talk to your pediatrician about these symptoms because they can help triage you and tell you whether they need to go to the hospital or if there's something that you can manage at home. I know there's a lot of fear about going to the pediatrician, especially in the time of coronavirus. I can tell you that we really encourage it. Actually, we have a lot of safety mechanisms in place so that if you go to the clinic, we can kind of isolate you from some of the patients that we may have who are exposed to coronavirus and everything. And so that's kind of my spiel for today, Alan.
No, that's a very, very important spiel. And I think that as the audience hears you to say that, in fact, that you're having a lot of success or very successful with treatment is immediately alleviating concerns. But we recognize that we are in a time period of uncertainty and still learning. So we'd like to make sure that we open up to hear questions from the audience. And again, you can text 313-288-2082. Christine, do we have any questions that have come in?
We do have questions that have come in. And before we start with those questions, there is a survey that's being posted in the Facebook chat right now. If you fill out the survey, you'll be entered in a raffle to potentially win a $25 gift card. Okay, so if our doctor could stay on, all of these questions I think are for you. How is and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly. How is Kawasaki contracted? What should parents avoid?
For sure. This is a great question. So Kawasaki, it's a very interesting condition. And so the Kawasaki disease by itself, we actually have seen this like for years, actually, even before the whole coronavirus, we were seeing this in the hospital. There's not a lot of understanding of why it's caused. There was a theory that certain viruses cause the Kawasaki as well too, but the actual etiology was never really understood. And so Kawasaki itself, it's an inflammatory condition. Essentially, it's your blood vessels in your body become inflamed for various reasons. It may be a reaction to a virus. It may be it's the own body kind of fighting itself actually for whatever reason. And so the very interesting thing is that these, the kids that we were seeing actually, initially we just thought we were having more patients with Kawasaki, but then we realized that the number that was happening was very unusual. And we were looking at our temporal trends actually, and this month actually, we just had 20 cases in the past 2 weeks when we usually see about 3 to 4 per month. And so that's when we realized probably like it's less likely to be Kawasaki, more likely related to the coronavirus. So Kawasaki by itself is not contagious, and even like the kind of Kawasaki-like syndrome we're seeing coronavirus isn't contagious by itself, but coronavirus itself is contagious. And so that's why when, as a physician, when I'm going into the rooms, actually, we still are downing up and wearing our masks and everything is because there's the coronavirus that we think is causing that Kawasaki, or the body's response to coronavirus that we're thinking that's causing the stroke syndrome.
So I think that's a great segue to this next question. Since Kawasaki is not contagious, but coronavirus is contagious, what is the best way to protect kids if they can't wear masks when they're really little?
Perfect. This is a very good question. This is an excellent question. You're right, because usually like the CDC guidelines do recommend that for kids who are like very, very young, it just is very hard to wear masks, and there's always a risk of smothering the kids with the mask. But it actually kind of comes upon all of us to try to, whoever's in the household of that child, to do their best to prevent. So everyone, if you have a kid who can't wear a mask, everyone in the household should try to wear a mask around the child as well too. The other thing too, like I think can't stress this enough, is important hand hygiene as well too. Washing your hands, it actually goes a long, long way. Actually, if you're washing your hands pretty consistently, and that includes using Purell and everything. The other thing that is pretty important too is for your I think for very young kids like babies as well too, is trying to keep the number of people who are around the kid to the bare minimum, actually, just the ones who are needed actually. just because you don't know. I think one of the things that surprised us with coronavirus versus like other viruses that all the people, as people probably know, like they're asymptomatic when they have it. Actually, they don't have any symptoms, but they can be carriers for the coronavirus. And so sometimes, even if you have no symptoms, you could be inadvertently passing the coronavirus on. So it's more to try to limit the number of people who are around that kid as well, to just to the bare and essential who are taking care of him or her.
So we have two questions about when to contact the doctor, and one question related to just going to the doctor. This question is: my son's pediatrician clinic is located inside of the Beaumont Oakwood. He has an appointment soon. Is it safe to take him? What can I do to protect him?
Very good question. Absolutely. I will say that, even though we're seeing this higher number of kids with it, the overall number of cases of coronavirus have come down quite a bit, actually, even on the adult hospitals. Even, of course, in the West, we're seeing a little bit of extra patients, but especially in the adult hospitals, they've come down quite a bit. So I actually encourage, even if for adults as well, too, actually, I do encourage you actually to see your primary doctors, because one of the things that we are hearing about, which is kind of scary for us as physicians, that people who are having heart attacks, strokes, they're not coming into the hospital. And then, fortunately, some of them are dying at home or coming in very, very late with things that we can't fix, actually, because they come in too late. But main things like going to the hospital, I would do the same things that you would do actually if you were going out, which is wearing a mask and also, again, washing your hands as well too. Luckily, all the hospitals, we're all like we have a lot of Purell and a lot of like hand sanitizer, but I would really encourage you, to use that when you come into the hospital. And then, of course, when you're in the hospital, practice social distancing as well too. And we're pretty good we have good policies in place in the hospital to do that, but I would just practice social distancing, kind of have that 6 feet away from other people who may be in the waiting room as well too. But absolutely, I really encourage you to go to see your pediatrician.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for that encouragement. Should you contact your doctor if a rash is present but no other symptoms, fever, etc.?
This is a great question. It's a bit hard, actually. Usually, like at least what I've seen. Again, I will tell you, this is the information that we know at this point, actually, because this is all new stuff to me. Actually, I haven't seen I've never seen these many cases of Kawasaki, and I've been here at Children's for 7 years. Actually, I've never seen this many before. Usually, what happens is you have the fever, and then the rash kind of comes afterwards. But I can theoretically see like the rash coming after the fever. What I would actually, it's a hard question to have, like, because the rash itself, like, obviously some kids, especially with the season change, some kids just have regular eczema and their eczema flares up. And so that rash obviously is not as concerning as the rash that we see with the COVID virus. And so, but, what I would say is, if it's a rash that you think your kids has had before, I would monitor it. But if there's anything concerning, if this is something new that your kid hasn't seen, you've never seen your kid have before, or if it's much worse than much worse than a rash you've seen them have before, I would encourage you to call your pediatrician. It is a bit hard, Nick, for us without seeing the rash actually to kind of make a decision. But I would err on this side of caution, actually, because one of the things that I've been seeing is that the earlier we're able to diagnose these kids, actually, the more quickly we're able to start treatment. And actually, the kids who got treatment pretty quickly, actually, they end up actually not developing some of these like the heart issues I was talking about. So I would encourage you to err on the side of caution. Just reach out to your pediatrician just to see if there's any concern, if you have a concern about the rash.
Great, thank you so much. This was such wonderful information. Jametta?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that information. And again, if we have more questions, it's good to know that you, as well as our experts at the Detroit Health Department, are available to answer them, and certainly everyone at Children's Hospital. So we're going to move forward in our program with a focus on kids and cultural activities and recreational activities that help keep us active and moving in this time of COVID. We're going to have someone that's going to join us from Scene Magazine. That's Chelsea D. Zabansky, and Chelsea is the Director for Digital and Social Media. Chelsea, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. As you mentioned, my name is Chelsea Zabansky, and I am the Digital and Social Manager over at Scene Magazine. I'm going to keep this really short and brief. But basically, we just want the community to know that we are celebrating 2020 seniors in a fun way with a virtual yearbook and an opportunity to be featured in our June print issue. So we are encouraging all 2020 grads to head over to our website, seenthemagazine.com, today and tomorrow to fill out a short form and to submit a photo to be featured in our June issue. In addition, they will get their own virtual yearbook page that will be created on our website to share with their family and friends and on social media as well. So if you or someone in your family, if you know someone in your family or one of your own kids is set to graduate this year, please share the link with them. Again, the form is available on our website right there. It's seenthemagazine.com, and it's right on the homepage. The form is right on our homepage, so it's super easy to find. And yeah, just fill it out and we will get it all put together for them. So that's basically it.
Well, that was quick and great information. So for all the teens that are out there who want to participate and have some fun with the social media that we know you're almost living that life, please join us. And so to continue, we're really tickled because now we're going to shift to have a presentation by Playworks, who does marvelous work partnering with our schools. And we have the executive director, Angela Rogensues. And Angela, help me out if I mispronounced your last name. Welcome, Ann. You have the floor and we have 5 minutes.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much. If we can get my slides perfect. So I'm here to talk a little bit about Playworks as a whole. Next slide. And Playworks is a local organization, a national organization. We believe that the power of play brings out the best in every kid. We believe that play is vital to children's development, and we are the leading organization using play to leverage both social emotional learning and physical health in children, helping them feel safer at school and in places that they are playing. We have a very large footprint across the country. In Michigan, prior to schools shutting down, we were in 72 school partners across the state of Michigan. And now we've pivoted to try and meet families and teachers where they're at. Next slide. So we know that families and teachers need unique content right now to support both children in practicing social distancing, to increase their overall health and physical activity, to support social emotional learning, to manage stress and anxiety in a very challenging time, to feel connected to each other. Someone had mentioned earlier about the effects of social isolation and sensory deprivation, and these are all real things that many children are experiencing. We also want to help them learn better. And we know that physical activity and play sprinkled throughout a school day and sprinkled throughout work, academic work, helps children learn. Next slide. So we pivoted when school closed to try and reach every child at home through our Play at Home initiative, which is a virtual platform that it consists of playbooks, game guide videos, and Facebook Recess. Next slide. So Playworks is offering recess 3 times a day on our Facebook page. The games sequence throughout the day. They are archived on YouTube, similar to Netflix. So parents or educators can access them at any point in time if children are antsy and need a break, and it happens to not be at 12, 2 or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is when recess is broadcast on Facebook. We also have a playbook that's translated into, I believe, 7 different languages. I'll show you the landing page where these resources live. Click the link. Oh, perfect. Maybe it's not working. Yeah, it's the middle one, the playbook. It's not working. Well, so if you go to playworks.org/Michigan, you will find all of these resources, both the playbooks that are downloadable in PDF. They can be printed. They're in Arabic, Spanish, English, Somali, Russian, a variety of different languages to try to meet all of our children. There are also, again, access to the videos, access to our Facebook page, and the archived of the recess games that are available to anyone. Anyone can log in. These are free resources. We realize these are incredibly challenging time for families and for educators, and we want to provide what we've been doing since 1996 to as many families as possible during this time. So with that, we are going to play a quick game to try and demonstrate. So if I could have everyone who is currently has their video off, this game will not work if they have their video off, that'd be great. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Matt, who is going to teach you how to play Chi Master. Matt, are you here?
I am. Let me get my video on. Your video cannot start because it has been stopped by the host. Can I have my video turned back on, please? All right, thank you. I am Matt. I am Program Director at Playworks Michigan. We are going to play a quick game of Chi Master. These are very similar to the games that are happening on our Facebook page, facebook.com/make-recess-count every day at 12, 2, and 4 p.m. So we're going to play a game called Chi Master. In Chi Master, there are 3 poses. The first pose is the Chi Master salutation. Let me see your Chi Master salutation. Wonderful. The second pose is the fireball. Let me see everyone's fireball. Thank you. And finally, our third pose is the crane. Let me see everyone's crane. Wonderful. Now, your job is to read my mind. You need to read the mind of the Chi Master. I'm going to choose one of those poses. You also are going to do one of those 3 poses. Your pose should be different than my pose. You need to read my mind, choose the pose, or know what pose I'm going to choose, and then choose a different pose. If you got it, let me see your thumbs up. All right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to count to 3, and I am going to choose a pose. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, I see a lot of fireballs. Fireballs, good job, nice try. Thank you. All right, let's go one another round. 1, 2, 3. Oh, cranes, good job, nice try. If you chose a fireball or the salutation, excellent. You had a pose that was different than mine. If you chose the crane, good job, nice try. Let's do one more round. 1, 2, 3. Oh, good job. Nice try, fireballs. Thank you. Thank you all for playing with me. Again, every day, Facebook, at Monday through Friday, facebook.com/make-recess-count at 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m.
Thank you, Matt. So again, we have lots of resources available to all families. Schools are closed, activities are canceled, but play can still thrive and is incredibly important for our kids at this time. So please share our resources with families. Please go on and utilize them as much as possible. We are here to serve you. Thank you so much for having us.
So Jametta is on mute. So next up, we are going to have Kimberly Boyd, who is going to lead us in some yoga. So if folks want to turn their cameras back on again and join us while Kimberly leads us through some amazing yoga. Kimberly?
Wonderful. Greetings, everyone. I am so excited that you're already warmed up for our superhero yoga today. So yoga really helps us to practice 3 things. It helps us to practice paying attention to how we are breathing. So everybody rub your hands. They're all fireball warm. Place one hand on your chest and the other hand on your belly. And for the next few breaths, pay attention to your breathing. Can you find where it is in your body? Inhale through your nose, and now control how you're breathing out by blowing out gently through your lips. So in these times when there isn't much that we can control, or if we're feeling out of control, what we can come back to is practicing controlling our breath. And if we need a breath that's going to energize us, we're going to do the yawning breath. You got it. You stretch and you open your mouth really wide. And it's this thing we do and people think we're being rude, but maybe all we need is a little energy. And everybody freeze. right where they are. Yoga helps us pay attention to what's going on with our bodies. So right now, can you tell whether your body is moving or whether it is still? Well, since we're in a game mood, when I say go, move your body any way that makes sense and doesn't hurt you or anybody else. Ready and go. Okay, get ready and stop. Get ready and go. Shake your sillies out and stop. Beautiful. So yoga helps us pay attention to what's going on in our bodies. Yoga helps us pay attention to what's going on in our minds. And we can be anything that we think we are. And the best thing about your mind is that you can change it. So right about now, I want you to put your body in this shape. This is our superhero pose. So if you can see me, I'm standing like superheroes stand or sitting like superheroes sit with your elbows out and your chest up. And from this place, I want you to think about what makes you really unique and special, or what makes your family member really unique and special. And what's challenging about this is sometimes we don't always show the best part of ourselves. That just means we're having a moment. But right about now, I want you to fill in the blank. I am, fill in the blank with what you are that's unique and special. Beautiful. So this is a superhero pose, and I want you to make this pose and think about your unique and special. Okay? And you know what else superheroes do? They fly. So everybody stretch and fly off to one side, stretch your arms in one direction, your legs in the other if you can. Oh, and swoop down and fly to the other side. Beautiful. And since Reverend Simmons took us to Wakanda, we're gonna land right here in this place where we have all that we need. And again, since yoga helps us pay attention to our minds and we can create anything that we can think of, just bring your arms here. All right, so now we have a yoga flow, which means we're gonna put those 3 ideas together, which means you're gonna have to do a little remembering. Are you ready? Superheroes, mount up. Superhero parents, superhero kids. Ready? I am, fill in the blank. Let's fly. Reaching off to one side, reaching down to the other side. Uh-oh, let's reach over again. Reaching over here, reaching around to the back. Reaching around to the back on the other side and come in for a nice smooth landing. And then ending like we began. Remembering the real truth of who we are, which has nothing to do with what is happening because we all have our moments. Breathing in, breathing out, and affirming for yourself. Fill in the blank, I am. Make it something good. Fantastic, wonderful, invincible, strong, kind, beautiful, smart. And so are you. Thank you.
And thank you, Kimberly. As always, you're inspiring, affirming our power. And this is such a perfect segue to our next speaker, Alisa Hurd, who's both a parent, a community organizer, and part of our coalition, to give us a message that we all know is that together, thoughtful, caring, loving on each other with knowledge, we are powerful. Arlisa, take us home.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jametta. Once again, my name is Arlisa Hurd, and after that, I am just re-energized. If you couldn't feel that, you might need to check your pulse because something's wrong. But I just wanted to just let you know, I've been a part of these town halls for the last 8 weeks. I'm a part of the coalition, as Jametta mentioned earlier. And normally I speak in the beginning of the town hall, the introduction, but today I just want to speak to the heart of parents. As we have heard from many of our speakers today, parents have the greatest influence in their children's lives. I'm sure I don't have to tell you how many roles I've played in parenting my children. I've been their advocate, their teacher, counselor, prayer partner, disciplinarian, cheerleader, doctor, friend, and sometimes foe. Yes, foe, because there will be times when our children think we are their worst enemy. But in the end, they see that we want what's best for them, and that best, oftentimes, it's not what's easiest. In fact, right now, there is nothing easy about these times. Think about it. In the last 8 or 9 weeks, many valuable lessons have been learned. Seemingly overnight, millions have gone from having a job to no job at all, from just making a quick run to the grocery store to making sure you're wearing protective gear so that you can be allowed in the grocery store. We've gone from taking kids to a school building ready for class to having class in our homes, whether we were ready or not. These are all rapidly changing times that can only lead us to one conclusion, and that is everything we have depended on thus far has been temporary. Every system that we've known has been shaken. Every family has been changed, and in some cases permanently. Every institution has been disrupted, just like that. However, history has shown us that in every crisis, there is opportunity. Specifically, this is a great opportunity for parents. Since our children are now home with us, we get to see how they learn, what works and what doesn't work. And you may have even questioned the education system as a whole at this point. I know I have. Maybe you have even asked, why are the children being taught a particular subject or a particular way? Or why aren't they getting enough of this? Asking questions of our education systems is the pathway to understanding how we as parents play such powerful roles in our children's education. And this is the best time to maximize that. For instance, earlier it was mentioned that Detroit students won the right to the literacy lawsuit. And as of today, the state agreed to settle this lawsuit. But while we are rejoicing over the victory, rightfully so, I have to take you back 4 years when it all started. See, it was because of parents, students, community, and courageous educators that stood up and spoke out. Parents decided that the conditions their children were being educated in was totally unacceptable, especially when other school districts just a few miles away weren't even facing a fraction of the issues their students were facing. Parents said they no longer wanted their children learning from outdated school books. They no longer wanted overcrowded classes, uncertified teachers, and unaccountable school systems, and on and on. Parents had to advocate and speak out, and that's what they did. So what does this tell us? What does this all mean? It tells us that as parents, we are powerful. We have a right to demand in the most assertive and effective way. We have a right to demand that systems, education systems, come correct when it comes to our children. We are seeing for ourselves the disparities and inequities in the systems that we counted on to educate our children. But now it's time that we liberate our children. Parents, it's time to stand up, back straight, and advocate for what we want, what we expect, what we need. As we heard earlier, prioritize your mental health, prioritize your family's mental health, but make sure we're standing up so that as we are faced with a new reality and we try to figure out what education may or may not look like this fall, parents, prepare yourselves. List your education expectations for your children, what it's going to take for them. And don't just stop there. Go ahead and seal the deal by being ready to have a say in every advisory committee, every parent meeting, every parent panel that you are able to take part in. Be sure, don't grow weary in well-doing. Since the nation, this state, and this city is on shutdown, let's use this as an opportunity to reset and make it right. You're powerful. Have a good one.
Thank you, Arlisa, for those really powerful words and reminding us all to walk in our own power. We're wrapping up our town hall. We're a little bit over. Sorry for that. Thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you for each of you for joining us today. We'll be here every Thursday from 12 to 2. If you want regular updates, please email, put your email or phone number in the Facebook chat, or you can text it to 313-288-2082. As always, we have a few asks for you. The first is there's still time to fill out the census. It'll take about 10 minutes for most people, but it will ensure that we have funds for education, healthcare, food, and emergency services for the next 10 years. Please encourage your friends and family to also fill out the census and join our sidewalk challenge, #WeAllCount. We also want you to share your thoughts with us and what you want to hear more about. There's a survey in the chat right now, so please fill it out, or and if you do fill it out, you'll be entered into a raffle for a $25 Visa gift card. We'll pick two folks to win. Finally, tomorrow, join us for another COVID313 Town Hall with the University of Michigan School of Public Health from 12 to 2 about air quality and COVID-19. And at 2 p.m. today, Child Care Subsidy COVID updates with Detroit Parent Network. Hope starts here, the Department of Education, and the Department of Health and Human Services. So that starts right now. You're 5 minutes late. The details are on the screen. This town hall is truly a group effort, and so we want to make sure that all of our partners are honored for the hard work that they do to put this on every week. All of the partners, please put on your video. Thanks, everybody. We want everybody to stay healthy, stay strong, and stay powerful. Liliana?
Yo quiero que todos mantengan empoderados, seguros y felices.
Thank you, Saeed.
كن آمنا، كن متينا وثابتا وابقى قويا. And thank you so very much.
Thank you. See y'all next week.